straight lead up. So, can someone just come out here for a sec? Actually, I'll do this out here. Sorry. I'll try not to get you. So it should be a straight lead up. A straight lead up to the fly line and then wiggles. As opposed to having the fly bunched back up, right? But then as I said, if you were fishing straight downstream, if Soon was a fish and I was upstream from him and I was trying to catch him, why would you personally run the risk of making sure that was right when you can just dump line right here like this and then just feed line out? You know? I wouldn't. In fact, I don't, because to me it's just high risk. And so I just wouldn't do it. But anyway, that's just me. So they tell you when you do your MCI and your CCI that a reach cast is a slackline cast. So we all know what a reach cast is. It's where if Soon was the fish, straight at him, reach off to one side, where you've got a straight line from the rod tip to the fish. That to me is not a slackline cast. I learnt it as one, but I don't think it is. Can anyone tell me why I would think that? Slack line. Do you see any slack in the line? Do you? I don't. I mean, it's designed to give you a longer drag-free drift so that, you know, the current's coming down this way, there's more current here than there is there, so theoretically that stays sort of still as the river brings this down, so that stays there longer, more chance of catching a fish. The theory's all fine, but to me it's not a slack line cast because there's no slack in the line. Anyway, so the reach cast is good to know when you're fishing a river because, as I said, it gives you a longer drag-free drift, but not really a slackline cast. The other one I've used sometimes when you're fishing from a boat. So let's just say I'm in the, anyone fished in a drift boat? Okay, Bill, 3, okay, Tim. Who's fished rivers? Who fishes rivers a bit? Oh, so that's not that common either. Right, so I might just end
pretty relevant, Clark.
See you later.
You couldn't believe
okay,
it,
well, if you ever get the chance of fishing in a drift boat, if I was standing in the back of the boat, so you've got a guy here rowing, another angler at the front, and we're actually floating down this way, and once again, if Soon was a fish, almost always, not quite, but almost always, the current by the bank is slower than the current out here. So, one cast you could do is a reach cast, because that then, this part of the line up here is going to get affected by the current, while that part near Soon is hopefully the fly is staying sort of still. But when you're casting all day, what is a great cast is just a positive curve like that. Because what that does is, it to me is a more effective way, it puts more of the line upstream and the fly sort of where you want it. But that fly there wasn't a great cast because it hooked around too much. So if I can just do it again, you would just, something like that. And if you're standing on the back of the boat, no one's here, so you can just cast like that all day. That is a great cast to learn. But once again, is that a slackline cast? I don't think it is. But by definition, if you want to learn slackline cast, that's what they tell you to learn. So, what are true slackline casts? I've just showed you one. It was the wiggle cast. Do you guys maybe just want to come up here? I might just do these on the water. Just a few of you there. Wiggles when you lay down the fly. So that is a wiggle cast. Wiggles in the fly line, straight to the fly from the end of the leader. Obviously great when you're fishing downstream. How do you do it? Well, I do this slightly different to most people in the sense that I do, you know, being a lawyer, do a lot of writing. Actually, that's another con, I don't. I actually type, I'm not very good because, you know, I get a slow handwriting. But when you write, to me, the two key components in writing, controlling the pen, are the index finger and your thumb. Is that index finger? Forefinger. I'm not sure. So anyway, I like to apply the same principle when I'm casting for accuracy or trying to really control the rod tip. So if you wanted to cast, learn to do the wiggle cast with a thumb on grip, you can. There's no problem. Thumb on grip, thumb on top grip, you can do it. Works fine, no problem. But for me, it doesn't feel like I've got the same finesse or ability to control the rod tip. So what I like to do is I like to slide my hand up the rod like this, have my thumb somewhere near the actual shaft of the rod, and then I put this finger up here like this. Now just note, it's not straight up and down, but it's actually on the side, because the wiggle cast is done by the rod tip going left and right. See? So when I was doing this cast and practicing for my MCI, I just thought, what is going to give me the best ability to control left and right movement? It's having your finger on the side of the rod, pushing it. See that? So if you ever want to cast where you want to move the rod left or right, that to me is the cast to practice. Having your hand like that. So what I'll often do is, I'll just be casting away, my finger is where it normally is, and then when it comes close to delivery, I'll just put that up there and just do it. Takes a bit of practice, but I think it's worth learning. The other thing I'd mention, I suppose, on that one is you want to keep the delivery shot nice and high so you've got as much time as possible to put the wiggles in. So you cast normally, keeping that forward cast nice and high, stop, let the loop, and then do it. You don't want to do it straight after you've stopped the rod tip, or you don't want to commence the left or right movement, because you need to give that leader a little bit of, the loop a little bit of time to form so that you get that straight leader layout. So you do not want to go stop, wiggle, 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 because look what happens to the fly. It pops back. Did you see that? Now if you're fishing straight downstream, you've got time to correct that, because like if the fish was up near the end of the D, you've got time to, you know, put in your own wiggles and do all that sort of stuff. But if you wanted to, for whatever reason, get the fly closer to the D and have some wiggles, give it some time, then do it. See how it was a straight layout, then wiggle, wiggle, wiggle? That's what you want. Okay, so that is a slackline cast. Do you think this would be a good cast across the current? So let's just say Eddie's a fish, still water where Eddie is, still water where I am, and this bit of water here is flowing fast that way. Do you think this would be a good cast? Anyone? Yes? No? Yeah. Okay. The answer is obviously no, because while, you know, there's slack in the system, and I'll try not to get you there anyway. When it comes to this part of the line, you have no control as to which part of the line is upstream, as in, you have no control as to which is, you know, where the bottom of the curve is and where the top of the curve is. So you just never know which part of the current is going to affect the line. So that is a classic example of where you could do a non-slackline cast, but a reach cast. And so you get a lot upstream and give yourself longer time. But anyway. So the wiggle cast is mainly used downstream. What can you do if you're fishing into fast water? If it's consistent flow, to me it doesn't really matter, because you just put the fly off to the side of the fish, you know, the same current speed is affecting the whole fly line, doesn't really matter too much. But if you were to have a fish that was up near the E or the L, and that was a tail out of a pool. So who's fished a tail out of a pool? You've got a big pool, and the water just starts to funnel together to go into the rapids or something. Have you fished like that? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Okay, so if the fish was right up here in the last little bit of the pool, and this bit here is starting to speed up, and I'm standing, you know, in really fast water, if you put the line straight out to the fish, my fish is up near the D, what do you think is going to happen? Yeah, it's going to get dragged, isn't it? Because obviously, down near my rod tip, the water's cranking, and up there it's almost still. So what you can do is try what's called a bucket cast, or what else are they called?
Hump mend.
That's how you do it. Yeah, hump mend, but I think, yeah.
Bucket cast.
So all you're trying to do basically on this one is you're trying to throw slack where the fast water starts. So you have a straight layout to the fish, and then you throw some slack where the fast water is. But once again, like, I think that was quite well demonstrated, but still not a great cast, because the slack in this one is only in that where I threw that bucket, which is, this is straight, look at it. This is all straight, and this is where the slack was until I pulled it out. Now that's great if you're accurate. If you're not, you know, good luck. So I've thought about this a lot. What is the best way to do it? And you know what? The only answer I can come up with is you've got to get to the side of the fish or above it. So you've got to move where you are, because it's just too tough. I mean, it depends obviously on some variables. As get the fly up there in front of the fish. get the fly in front of the fish, and then once the line lands on the water, if you've given yourself a long leader, hopefully the leader has laid out in some sort of slack arrangement, so you've got yourself a few seconds. What you can try and do is you can get the fly up there near where you want the fish, and then you can use the rod tip and just start throwing slack. See how I'm pulling off line? Just pull off line and throw slack with the rod tip. And that to me is probably one of the only ways I would actually try and fish this scenario. To me it's too high risk. Like if I'm talking